The Living Zen-podcast is a gift from the members and associates of the Victoria Zen Centre to you. If you enjoy it, please be sure to let your friends know about Living Zen. If you'd like to support our community, download the Living Zen-podcast app for iPod, iPhone, and Android. One of the most meaningful ways to show your support is by becoming a part of our Sangha as an associate. Your commitment of $10 a month will ensure that offerings like the Living Zen podcast and our online e-Zendo will continue to be available around the world to everyone with an interest in truly living Zen. To become an associate, please visit our website at zenwest.ca and click on Become an Associate. Many more Zen Talks are available for purchase on iTunes and Amazon.com. Just search for Venerable Eshu Martin. These talks are also available for free on our website to all members and associates of the Victoria Zen Centre. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support. Lots of ways of understanding this, like on the weekend especially I was talking about sort of this just recognizing that we have we have to recognize the simultaneous aspects of life in which sort of we have this distinct existence self, that we can look around and we can see all the other distinct existence selves. But that there's another side, which is that we're all totally transient, and that each of us and each and everything in the universe, whether it's a tree or a rock or a mountain, goes through this process of arising sort of out of the origin or out of emptiness and existing for a time and then dissolving, melting away, returning to the origin. And those two things aren't like there's a self that exists separate from the origin. The metaphor that's often used is like the ocean, right? Puts up a wave. And one of the common mistakes that we make as human beings as waves is to sort of think of ourselves as separate from all the other waves and separate from the ocean, and just like, what a great wave I am and how can I get bigger and look at how much awesomer I am than that other wave. And so when it comes to meeting people or connecting with people quickly, I always sort of look at it as like there's a recognition of the origin in that relationship. Sometimes there's an affinity, as in, we are two waves traveling in the same direction at approximately the same rate, and there's like a immediate familiarity. So where that comes from, there's lots of metaphysical sort of ways of understanding that. I don't like to get into them too much, because I just think it happens and it, and they're important to recognize, that when we, like for me, a lot of things like in Zen practice really hit me like that when I first came into Zen practice. In a lot of ways, when I first started reading texts about Buddhism and Zen, it was like someone had picked the random thoughts that I had about the way the universe worked and sort of like codified them or like put them down in a structured order, and I was like, yeah, that's, And then meeting some teachers in my life was also very similar. Like, it doesn't take very long to feel very at ease and like this was an old relationship. So yeah.
We seldom ask a question, but that brings to mind true love and relationship. Mm-hmm. I don't know, it's always a question, do you find the right person, or is that forged over time? And what's your view of that?
Well, I guess I have to go back to what you call true love. The way true love, unconditional love is, or unconditioned love is often a term that is used interchangeably in the tradition that I come from for Buddha nature. And it's quite different than what we talk about in like male, female, or sort of, that's totally like gender biased. In romantic relationship, it's totally a different thing. Romantic love is I'm going to get in trouble. Romantic love is fundamentally based on self. It has to be. It's based on one person, choosing another person based on qualities that they like and all of those kinds of things. So when we talk about unconditional love in Zen, that's why when we're doing koan practice, the manifestation of unconditional love is of fundamental importance. It's a term that is interchangeable with emptiness. It's a term that's interchangeable in Zen with Buddha nature. It's interchangeable if you're so inclined with God from the perspective of Zen practice. And so the experience of that state, or the experience of unconditional love, is absolutely fundamental. And so we're so confused about love because of whatever, the relationships that we've had or the media that we watch or all the sort of messages that we get, that when it comes to Zen practice and we start talking in this way about unconditional love, we get into first koans like, how do you manifest unconditional love when you're seeing a stone? How do you return to the origin? How do you melt down the differentiation or the separation that you feel between yourself and an object, any object? Stones and flowers and trees is where we start because they're easiest, because it's they don't shift and they don't say things that hurt our feelings, and they don't have opinions of their own to express. And on the other side, they're also so completely able to manifest themselves without reservation. Like, take some time and look at a stone. It's a stone, absolutely. If we look at ourselves, how often are we able to so solidly manifest ourselves as, what and who we are? We pale in comparison to a stone. So the job in these cases is to equally meet the stone and to unify into this experience of unconditional love. I can't express it any better than that. It's something that has to be experienced. So from the perspective of Zen practice, like romantic love is nice. It's nice. But in terms of making relationship in practice, it's doing relationship in practice should have the aim of taking that koan, developing that koan until how do you manifest unconditional love when you're meeting your partner? And this is quite different than sort of like roses and champagne and chocolates and a candlelight dinner. It's how do you affirm and experience the fundamental unification of all things through the act of relationship. And that's, when we're talking about love in Zen practice, that's what we're fundamentally concerned with, is that sort of manifestation of this intimacy of unification in which there isn't anything outside. There's no qualities to define and say, oh, I love you for this, honey, and I love you for that, and all this kind of stuff. Roshi, my teacher, there was a monk that I trained with, and before he came and became a monk, he was kind of known for having these really kind of messed up relationships. And the instructions of the Roshi was like, no relationships for you. You're going to do Zen training, no girlfriend for you. And so he grumbled and groaned and got used to it after a while. And what happens is that Roshi always referred to his idea of love as stupid love. And it was this idea that we sometimes get where, if I'm alone, I'm only half a person, or I'm missing a chunk of something, and I'll only be happy when I have that other person. And I think that this is a lot of people's idea of love, is that I can't possibly be satisfied and happy until I find that right person, or that perfect relationship, or even that not perfect relationship, but a relationship. And I look around and I see everybody, and they've all got relationships, and I should too. And this practice, the idea of doing this practice, is to come to the realization that real relationship can only take place when you've got two completes coming together to make relationship. When you get two sort of half people coming together to make relationship, you get something really kind of sick. And when something goes wrong and those two half people break apart, both of them are even sicker. And then they go around looking for the next half person to come back together. And so often what would happen with in training with Roshi is, so you're very sad, no relationships, and he'd say, how do you manifest unconditional love when you're seeing a stone, and you'd engage in this practice with a stone, and you'd continue going through this and realizing that you can come to completion in any activity that you're doing, in any relationship with any sense field. You're complete as you are, and all that's happening is that you're just waking up to this fundamental completion that's already manifest. And then after a few years, what you see is these people who are tremendously happy. They can sit for long periods of time and just very happy, just doing whatever it is that they're doing, and beautiful. This is where people become quite attractive when they're like that, just fundamentally satisfied with who they are and what they're doing, and people say, wow, that's quite nice. And beautiful people come up and make really obvious passes at them, and they're totally oblivious to it because they just are happy as they are. Not a relationship at this point seems like the worst possible idea. It would ruin everything, And this is the point where Roshi would start to say, so-and-so looks very nice today, don't you think? Maybe you should ask her for tea, and really try to encourage the person to make relationship, because it's easy, just like it's easy to continue going on this sort of cycle of bad relationships. It's easy to get isolated in this sort of pure state and forget that this human relationship is one of the more complex ones. So when we talk about marriage in Zen, in this tradition, I always encourage people to look at it as like really high-level training, because it's like, I usually use a martial metaphor, actually, because it's like in judo, it's of utmost importance to simultaneously be really pushing your partner to the extreme of their capacity, but also taking care of them because they're your partner. And that's kind of how I view marriage, is this continuous and real love is about, in my opinion, is really about encouraging and supporting and challenging each other to more fully manifest your true nature, Buddhahood. So I don't know if that helps at all, but
it's a good beginning, I guess.
Yeah. And about like, I don't know, sometimes, especially with things like, chemistry, romantic chemistry, my personal experience with chemistry is like, it's bad. It's like, well, at least in my experience, every person that I've had really serious, like, romantic or sexual chemistry with has been just an abominable relationship. So I'd much rather have a very stable person that I'm, remotely, or I'm attracted to, but not like, wah! Because I think you need some balance, but that's just my opinion. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for asking a question. That's a hard question. Yeah. It always makes me feel like I should apologize. I'm sorry. Zen doesn't, it's not all that romantic. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Any other questions? Thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.